Good morning, I'm Gaby Roslin, and a very warm welcome from ITN Studios in central London, where today it's my privilege to be announcing the nominations for the Royal Television Society Programme Awards 2025, presented in partnership with Cast and Crew. Our huge thanks, first of all, to ITN for being our host today. Now, the last 12 months continued to be a very challenging time for our industry as the broadcasters and streamers adapted to the new realities of the market and viewers' changing habits. The pace of commissioning felt slower than many had hoped for, and there were large numbers of freelance professionals for whom finding work continued to prove difficult. But despite the testing times, it remains the case that the quality and range of content delivered by talented British production teams and crews is as strong as ever, as we're about to see in the list of nominated programmes. The nominations have been determined by juries of professionals drawn from across the industry. They watched the hundreds of hours of submitted entries, then met on Zoom to discuss the merits of the programmes they'd watched. A short list of 3 nominations was then agreed in each category, with a vote by secret ballot selecting the category winner. And so, without further ado, let's get on to the nominations. We'll begin with the drama categories, and the first is drama series. The nominations are Wolf Hall, The Mirror and the Light, produced for the BBC and Masterpiece; Supercell, produced for Netflix; and Industry, produced for the BBC in association with HBO. In the newly combined category of limited series and single drama, the nominations are Mr. Bates versus The Post Office, produced for ITV1; This Town, produced for the BBC; and Breathtaking, produced for ITV1. In the soap and continuing drama category, the nominated titles are Casualty, produced for the BBC; EastEnders, produced for the BBC; and Hollyoaks, produced for Channel 4. In the drama performance categories, the nominees in the category of female leading actor are Anna Maxwell Martin for Until I Kill You, produced for ITV1; Ambika Mod for One Day, produced for Netflix; and Monica Dolan for Mr. Bates versus The Post Office, produced for ITV1. In the male leading actor category, the nominees are Adil Akhtar for Show Trial, produced for the BBC; Lenny James for Mr. Loverman, produced for the BBC; and Ben Whishaw for Black Doves, produced for Netflix. In the female supporting actor category, the nominees are Monica Dolan for Sherwood, produced for the BBC; Catherine Parkinson for Rivals, produced for Disney+; and Jessica Gunning for Baby Reindeer, produced for Netflix. In the male supporting actor category, the nominees are Danny Dyer for Rivals, produced for Disney+; McKinley Belcher III for Eric, produced for Netflix; and Sonny Walker for The Gathering, produced for Channel 4. We move on to factual programmes. In the formatted popular factual category, the nominations are The Jury, Murder Trial, produced for Channel 4; Freddie Flintoff's Field of Dreams on Tour, produced for the BBC; and the Martin Lewis Money Show Live Budget Special, produced for ITV1. In the history category, the nominated programmes are Miners' Strike, 1984, The Battle for Britain, produced for Channel 4; Atomic People, produced for the BBC; and Helmand, Tour of Duty, produced for the BBC. In the live event category, the nominated programmes are Coldplay at Glastonbury 2024, produced for the BBC; the Martin Lewis Money Show Live Budget Special, produced for ITV1; and D-Day 80, Tribute to the Fallen, produced for the BBC. The first of the 2 categories for documentary work is documentary series, and the nominations are To Catch a Copper, produced for Channel 4; The Push, Murder on the Cliff, produced for Channel 4; and On Thin Ice, Putin v Greenpeace, produced for the BBC. In the single documentary category, the nominated programmes are Undercover, Exposing the Far Right, produced for Channel 4. Tell Them You Love Me, produced for Sky Documentaries, and Hell Jumper, produced for the BBC. In the arts category, the nominations are My Sexual Abuse, the sitcom, produced for Channel 4. In My Own Words, Alison Lapper, produced for the BBC, and Camden, produced for Disney+. The nominations in the science and the natural world category are Silverback, produced for the BBC, Billy and Molly, an otter love story, produced for National Geographic and Disney+, and Living with Leopards, produced for Netflix. In the presenter category, this year's nominees are Liz Carr for Better Off Dead, produced for the BBC, Joe Tracini for Me and the Voice in My Head, produced for Channel 4, and Zouair Hussain for Big Zoo Goes to Mecca, produced for the BBC. Now to the sports coverage and production categories, which are always very competitively contested. For the Sports Programme Award, the nominations are Paris 2024 Paralympics, produced for Channel 4, Paris 2024 Olympics, produced for the BBC, and London Marathon 2024, produced for the BBC. In the category of sports presenter, commentator or pundit, the nominees are Rose Ayling-Ellis and Claire Balding for Paris 2024 Paralympics, produced for Channel 4. Ian Wright for Euro 2024, produced for ITV. And Michael Johnson for Paris 2024 Olympics, produced for the BBC. Entertainment is a genre on the front line of the battle for ratings. And again, this year, British creatives have delivered shows of great quality that have attracted huge audiences. In the entertainment category, the nominated programmes are Anton Deck's Saturday Night Takeaway, produced for ITV1, RuPaul's Drag Race UK, produced for the BBC, and The Traitors, produced for the BBC. In the entertainment performance category, the nominees are Stephen Frayne for Miracles, produced for Sky Max, Anthony McPartlin and Declan Donnelly for Anton Deck's Saturday Night Takeaway, produced for ITV1, and Claudia Winkleman for The Traitors, produced for the BBC. In the daytime category, this year's nominated programmes are Loose Women, produced for ITV1, Clive Myrie's Caribbean Adventure, produced for the BBC, and BBC Breakfast, produced for the BBC. In the children's programme category, the nominations are Dodo, produced for Sky Kids, BMX All-Stars, produced for the BBC, and Quentin Blake's Box of Treasures, produced for the BBC. And now we move on to the comedy categories. In the comedy drama category, the nominations are Borders, produced for the BBC, Alma's Not Normal, produced for the BBC, and Ludwig, produced for the BBC. Congratulations to the BBC for a clean sweep of all three nominations in the comedy drama category. In the scripted comedy category, the nominated programmes are Things You Should Have Done, produced for the BBC, We Are Lady Parts, produced for Channel 4, and Gavin and Stacey, the finale, produced for the BBC. In the comedy entertainment category, the nominations are Have I Got News for You, produced for the BBC, Sorry, I Didn't Know, produced for ITV1, and Junior Taskmaster, produced for Channel 4. The comedy performance categories are next, and the nominees for female comedy performance are Amy Lou Wood for Daddy Issues, produced for the BBC, Michelle de Swart for Spent, produced for the BBC, and Sophie Willan for Alma's Not Normal, produced for the BBC. For male comedy performance, the three nominees are Jim Howick for Here We Go, produced for the BBC, Naban Rizwan for Chaos, produced for Netflix, and Oliver Saville for Changing Ends, produced for ITV1. The Breakthrough Award is presented each year to celebrate a significant and emerging on-camera talent. Previous winners of this award include Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Michaela Cole, Naban Rizwan and Mae Martin. So it's proved a reliable indicator of great things to come. This year's nominees are three outstanding young creatives. They are the actor Josh Tedeku, whose performance as Jahim in BBC's coming-of-age teen drama Borders delighted audiences and critics alike. Michelle de Swart, the creator, writer and star of the BBC's comedy drama Spent, a series described by a broadsheet reviewer as an astonishingly accomplished debut. And the actor Bethany Asher, whose performance as Steffi in James Graham's Sherwood, produced for the BBC, made a real and profound impact, both on the series itself and the millions watching. The Programme Awards is proud of its tradition of honouring the work of our very best television writers, and we continue that tradition this year. In the comedy writing category, the nominees are the writing team of Cunk on Life, produced for the BBC and Netflix. Sophie Willan for Alma's Not Normal, produced for the BBC, and Nida Manzoor for We Are Lady Parts, produced for Channel 4. For drama writing, the nominees are Will Smith for Slow Horses, produced for Apple TV+, Peter Strawn for Wolf Hall, The Mirror and the Light, produced for the BBC and Masterpiece, and Dominic Treadwell Collins and Laura Wade for Rivals, produced for Disney+. And so there they all are, the nominations for this year's RTS Programme Awards. My sincerest congratulations to all of the individual nominees and the production companies, both large and small, that made the list. And now it's my pleasure to hand over to the Chief Executive of the Royal Television Society, Teresa Wise.
Thanks, Gabby, and thank you for leading us through the nominations for this year's Programme Awards. Let me begin by offering my own congratulations to all the nominees. The broad range and deep quality of British content production is there for all to see. It's great too that all kinds of production companies are represented in the nominations list. Not only shows from the big studios and the major media groups, but work from the tiniest indies as well. Gabby mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that 2024 was a challenging year for our industry. But in the list of nominations, you'll see fantastic high-calibre pieces being produced in all genres. And let's remember, too, how much our audiences really do love and appreciate that content. This was, after all, the year when over 20 million people watched the same single episode of a much-loved comedy drama over the Christmas holiday. That's the kind of number we all assumed was a thing of the past. I'm delighted that the Programme Awards are sponsored again this year by Cast & Crew. As many of you will know, Cast & Crew is the leading entertainment industry business partner, fueling efficiency with payroll, accounting and creative solutions. They also provide expert guidance on residuals, workers' compensation, production incentives and financial services that support the television, film, advertising and live entertainment productions globally. Their UK office, Sargent Disc, is the foremost payroll and technology provider for the film and television industries. The RTS is very appreciative of Cast & Crew's sponsorship and support. I'd also just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who submitted programmes for this year's awards. The Programme Awards is the biggest fundraising event in the RTS calendar, but it wouldn't be possible without the support of the broadcasters, streamers and the production community. Thank you as well to everyone who gave up their time to watch the entries and participate on the juries. We work hard to put together juries that reflect the diversity of today's audience, and I can today report that of 248 jurors this year, 56% were female and 36% were from minority ethnic backgrounds. And finally, thank you to this year's Programme Awards Chair, Kenton Allen. Kenton's enthusiasm, ideas and flair are a great asset to the Programme Awards. So thank you, Kenton. And that wraps up our presentation today. Please remember to book your table for the event itself. The date is Tuesday, the 25th of March, and once again will be at the Grosvenor House Hotel in London. As well as the awards for all the categories listed today, we will also be presenting the Judges Award to recognise an exceptional contribution to television this year, and the Outstanding Achievement Award. I'm thrilled that this year we'll be welcoming back the brilliant and very funny Tom Allen as our host for the ceremony, and it promises to be a wonderful night celebrating the best of British television. I really hope you can be with us. So I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time for the RTS Programme Awards 2025, presented in partnership with Cast and Crew. Thank you.